Hi, everybody, and welcome to Breath and Voice Chronicles. With me, Igor Siberia, and my dear friend, Sophia Maya. Sophia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderfully. It's so good to see you again. I'm just excited to be back. And so thanks. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. And so today I have a feeling to bring forward the topic of choosing ourselves or not
Mm,
choosing ourselves, and in general, how that shows up in our life. I just went through a very transformative experience, and there was about 80 people. The experience called the bridge, and so there was about 80 people there. And with the specific exercise, 90% of the people didn't choose themselves, including myself, and that just really like brought up a lot of things for me forward that I'm like, yeah, well, I'm showing up for people, for everybody in my life. And I do make time for myself. I do taking care of myself, and I definitely got a lot better than I used to be. But
mm,
still, what I realized, what I just seen that I wasn't choosing myself like 200% until that like realization, and that just shifted a lot in me, in a good way. That I reflected back to the previous year. I've been moving forward, and I have a multiple burnouts, and I've seen
mm,
that, and I reflect to that, but I have not made any actions on that. And then again, I came to this experience in a schedule uh, to host events without giving myself time to properly like deeper integrate. And I was like, yeah, if I would choose myself, I would give myself time to fully integrate that, and then to show up for everybody else in that full capacity, because I did felt that while I was able to deliver the program, I wasn't like feeling 100%, because I was like my heart was like wide open, and I was like healing in some ways, realizing and integrating, and just seeing how in general, like a lot of people also not choose themselves. I do have a feeling that that's a common thing in the world, how we are doing a lot of everything for our families, for our partners, for our friends, and for like communities, and quite often we forget about ourselves. What do you think, Sophia?
That's an extraordinarily relevant subject matter for me. In particular, I am. I mean, I could write a book about this, so I won't go on and on. But this is particularly important. I think this time in space, in this time in this epoch, or this time that we're in the world with humanity, is something that I've learned about a lot lately, because I had to shift from being that person who just put her head down and plowed through whatever I needed to do, to really pull out that old wiring and learn that the five-dimensional way, or the new way, or the higher frequency way of living, is to listen to our bodies and our intuition, and follow that exclusively, even if that means canceling or not following through or not committing yourself to things. Because I think we're so overcommitted as humans, and we do it
Yes.
for a lot of reasons. We a lot of times want to escape ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions. So busying ourselves and piling on commitments is a one way to do that. And I think a lot of people can identify with that. But I also, I mean, I spent a lifetime not choosing myself. This is one of the biggest lessons I had to learn through the my period of transformation, was to stop, shut everything down. I literally had to shed everything in my life, everyone in my life, every commitment I had. I even left my business, which I've talked about before, in order to get down to the raw necessities of my life. And then from there, learn, first of all, to live with myself as myself, in the peace and quiet that was necessary, and then build my life back slowly in a more meaningful way. And you learn through self-care to choose yourself that way. And that's the way that I had to learn. It's really difficult to try to do it when you're in the mix, or when you're in the frantic energy that we create in our lives by overcommitting ourselves and doing things that we feel like we need to. But the difference between the old 3D way of thought, of thinking, which is, effort equals success, which, unfortunately is no longer supported in the higher frequency energy that the earth is now in and humanity is now immersed within. Now it really is more about listening to your body and hearing your intuition. When it says slow down or stop, you slow down or you stop. There's no question about it. Until you start to learn to do that, you're always on the hamster wheel, and you're never able to slow down to a degree where you can hear your body and your intuition. And you have to get off the hamster wheel. You have to get out of the frantic energy. This is something that took me a very, very long time to integrate into my life, because I was so wired to just do what I needed to do for everything else in my life, which was mostly my business. And I had a nervous breakdown. I mean, I had to really look at myself and say, what are you doing? And luckily for me, in what I went through the last 3.5 years in this isolated phase, it was a very big part of that, was to deconstruct myself and really discover that there's a whole other wiring in our bodies, in my body. If I would just stop and shut up and stop doing, that I could actually hear and connect with and tune into. And then I was able to start to listen to my heart and my body and my intuition, and let go of that need to be productive in order to feel successful, or that I'm doing enough in my life. And it really is a hard wire that has to be cut. And you have to be rewired with this natural, beautiful, synchronistic, harmonized soul energy that guides you through the transition from the old wiring into the new. And then before you know it, you're sitting in front of a bunch of opportunities to commit yourself, and you're choosing very carefully, or you're not choosing at all. And it really is a beautiful thing. But for me, this was a huge lesson that took me years and years and years to even recognize was a problem. And then when I had the opportunity to change it, it took quite a while. It's not something you do overnight. I don't think so. Anyway.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite often we just keep moving forward nonstop. And I like how you said that we overcommitting with so many things of helping other people and
Right.
work related, task related, chores, errands, so, or like courses. Some people, once you get in the educational mindset, then you get 10 courses or like books that you want to read, and it just never ending journey of like, oh, and then we surprised, why do we feel overwhelmed? Because
Right.
we just packed ourselves up with all the stuff. We live in a world of like endless information, and sometimes choosing ourselves means to say no, to some of the gatherings that we've been invited, birthday party, celebrations. We just, it's okay to say no, and just to choose be at home in your own space, maybe reading that book that you wanted to read for a long time and just never had ever time or space, or making that art. That's the story of my life, that I'm used to do lots of art growing up in high school, and just becoming adult, I just never have time to, at least that's the story that I tell myself, and I'm
Right.
aware of it, that we have all the time that we need to create the life and create space in our life. And really, like I really like how this time it like landed in me in a way that I'm like asking myself like every day, if I would choose myself now, what would I do? And I could see how I making a lot more amazing actions that help me to just restore myself or like integrate properly before I jump into next thing and bringing that good balance in life in general.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. As you were talking, I was thinking of something that came up is that when you achieve something through blood, sweat, and tears, which is a common saying in the States, and it means that you had to put a lot of effort in, you had to sacrifice a lot to get that thing, whether it's an education, to get a job, or a relationship, or a focus on some external goal that you want to achieve, and we go wrong. And I say we, I mean me. I went wrong when I sacrificed the balance in my life to do it. And I think that's really the benchmark that tells you that you're off track. If you have to sacrifice your peace, your health, your close relationships, your well-being, your home, anything, if things are out of balance, then you're focusing too much energy on one thing. And what happens when you do that is when you achieve that goal that you want, whether it's a career or whatever it is, it takes that same amount of effort to keep it. And this is the one thing that I had to really understand. And I use the terms 3D and 5D. And what I mean by that is three-dimensional is like the general energy of humanity and the earth. But the dimensional energy is changing, it's rising. And what that means is that the new energy, which is lighter and vibrates faster, does not have the capacity or the density to hold the old way of thinking and the old way of taking action in the world. So when you make a lot of effort for something and you sacrifice everything for it, in order to keep that, you have to continue sacrificing. That's the old way of doing it. The new way, and this is the way that I've really, really grown to embrace, is that if I sit back in my energy and I get to a point where I can hear my heart beat, I can feel how I feel in my body, physically and emotionally, and I can hear my intuition, which is a lot of times just a very slight whisper. If I tune into that core energy, I am absolutely guided by inspiration, and what that is called is inspired action. So when I take an action in the world, and I'm saying it like I'm an expert, which I'm absolutely not. This is a very hard earned lesson that I had to learn. And I was able to do it in an encapsulated express lane of time because I was meant to overcome it. So I could talk about it. But until I was able to slow down and listen to my body, it's all about the body. You just don't know what's right. So you allow fear and you allow insecurity and you allow resentment or whatever your emotional toxic cocktail is to drive your actions. And that toxic action creates a goal that is toxified. So you have to continue the toxic action in order to keep it. So what I mean by that is, let's say you want to get married or you're pursuing a job, a career, and you go to college and you do all these things and you sacrifice your relationship and your health and you get there and you're exhausted. And then you sit in that chair in the corner office and you look around and you go, I don't care about any of this. I'm not happy, but I have to keep it now because I worked so hard to get it. So you
Right.
keep plowing forward and you go and you go and you go. And what you're doing is you're driving yourself into the ground.
I
And
could see,
on that
I could see,
trajectory,
I
yeah,
could see, just want to add a quick comment, how many
yeah,
people might find themselves in what you're describing right now, that we like never ending chasing a carrot or like the goal. And
right.
you put so much energy and time and you finally get there. And by the time you get there, you're like, I don't need that.
But now you're stuck because you spent so much time and effort. You don't have the heart to let it go. But that's really that's the transformative decision, is when you can actually stop and slow down, enough to make that decision, to make a change, an inspired change. And that's the difference between gaining a goal through inspired action, which is your heartfelt desire
Mm,
expressed in your thoughts and then your actions in the world,
Mm-hmm.
versus a goal that is material, that is a goal because it's going to bring you material wealth or status or some external egoic
Mm-hmm.
goal. Those are the two. That's the two buckets: either your ego effort or your heart's inspired action.
And,
You get one or the other, and depending on the one you choose, really dictates the quality of your life.
and sometimes it's a beliefs system.
Yeah,
Like you reminded me that experience of my life, that my mom kind of like put that seed in my consciousness back in the days, that she, when I wanted to be an entrepreneur, she told me like, my dad being an entrepreneur his whole life, and it's kind of like ups and downs. We have good moments and we have like not a good moments. So I was kind of like unstable, and she said to me out loud, "I wish for you to have a more stable job, well paid, stable job." And I spent where that was like 7 years to receive an additional education, going to school again in United States, and finally getting this dream job as what known to be, and I exactly been as you've been describing, like sitting in that chair, looking at the screen, and realizing that this is not the job that I want to have. I don't want to look at the screen 8 hours a day. It's a lot. My eyes were struggling. I was like seeing, my vision was going bad, and I was trying, optics and all stuff, and I feel all that discomfort. And I
yeah,
start something to reflect what you were saying, how our body constantly communicating to us, constantly talking to us. It's the only moments that we allow to listen, and it's the moments when we can pause, when we have this pause of breath, right? And then everything kind of shifts, and you feel where the sensations are and like where the pain is. It's all interconnected. In that moment, when I allow myself to think and drop in and ask myself that moment of, what do you want?
yeah,
Now it's your time. If not this, what would you like to do? And maybe, sure, I didn't get an answer right away, but I've been on that quest, and I've been on that journey, and I'm being allowing myself, creating those spaces in my life when I would get a chance to think and meditate.
yeah,
And what I discovered was, through these moments of pauses, breathing, sound, meditation, and going back in the childhood, finding
yeah,
a precious moment that what I've been as a kid inspired to do. And then I'm realized, and I could reflect back and see how that was showing up throughout my life since I was a kid and a teenager and young adult, and seeing like, oh, how is that all connected? And I see how I'm passionate about it. I start bringing that back to my adult life, and that start helping me to discover what I'm truly passionate about,
yeah,
specifically with those pauses, with those body language. And our body is so intelligent. I can't say that enough. How how many sensations we have. Sometimes our body even shakes uncontrollable, like quite like animals. You're like, oh, and then you feel like a rush of energy, just like went through it. And I uh, most of my life I actually been ignoring that, and now I'm
yeah,
paying a lot like close attention. I was like, wow, there was something in this space, in a field, that my body like just processed that with that shake. And it's not because I called, it's just my body processing that. And now
yeah,
I'm like welcoming that and allowing the space and time for that to happen, and just listening more carefully of what it says, what it does. Something that I also notice with a lot of people, like just to give an example with the body language, that when something is negative is happening, our body have a tendency to constrict, like
yeah,
the shoulders to go forward, head goes down, kind of like collapse, like almost
hmm,
maybe we even ready to cry, but we go in that place. And so opening yourself back up standing in a dignity. It moves that energy that were coming to you, it moves that out. And you showing how you are strong, courageous, with an open heart, that nothing that is coming that way can attack you. Because even people can feel when that is happening with a person. Um, Sometimes it can go even harder on you, seeing that you're collapsing.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. And I think I did not realize this. I used to look at the body as a vehicle for my soul. And it's just like a car. It's I'm here to drive it around to have an experience, but what I've learned is that it's all about the body. And I'll describe an experience that I had that really illustrates how much the body talks. And I'm not talking about emotional uh language, like how I feel, like am I sad or happy or angry or whatever. I'm talking about the way I physically feel, like what's going on in my body, like you were saying, that shiver or whatever. I was at a point when I retired from my business. It's almost 3 years now that I retired from my business, and I only had income for about a year. And I knew I'd have to get a job again. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't care at the time I left my business. I just knew I had to go. And when it came time that I thought it was time for me to find a job, I started to put myself on a business, a job finding website. And I created this profile and did all these things. And I started applying for jobs. And I haven't worked for a company at the time, which was 2 years ago, in for over 13 years, because I was self-employed. I was an entrepreneur. I worked at a corporate job before that, but I am now almost 60 at the time. I haven't worked a regular job in 12 plus years. It wasn't going to be easy for me to find a job. I knew that. But as I was looking for a job and I was really dedicated to it, I didn't feel the energy to do it at all, because I didn't want to have to do it, especially after being an entrepreneur for so long. But I just felt like my fear was telling me, you need to get a job. So this is the distinction I was making earlier. So I kept trying and I kept applying for these jobs, even though there were jobs I didn't care about. I'm like, I just got to get something. And I remember going online one day, and I logged on to this website to look for a job. And as I started to scroll through the available jobs, my energy in my body just dropped. I felt like I was like instantaneously ill.
Mm.
Like you said, I collapsed forward. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had a little trouble breathing. And I said, okay, this is interesting. So I started to reach for the keyboard again, and it hit me again. This just exhaustion. So I turned everything off. I went downstairs in my home and I laid on the couch, and I probably for about an hour. And then as the evening came, I felt this exhaustion just stayed with me. So I went to bed really, really early. And I woke up the next morning with an epiphany. I realized that my body was telling me very clearly, you're not to find a job. We have
Yep.
something else for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
It is not ever going to be a 9 to 5 or a salary job ever again. You're not doing that again. And of course, I didn't know all that at the time, but I realized when I woke up in the morning, which is when I integrate what I went through at night, that I wasn't meant to find a job again. And I don't know how you speak to your soul tribe, who are not incarnated, but I have a very clear line of communication with them. And I quickly got a validation that said, you're not meant to find a job again. You're done. And then I could finally let that go. And the message that followed was, follow your heart. And I thought, well, the only thing my heart wants is to be with my new grandbaby, because my daughter just had her daughter. And then I said, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, got it. But it took my body literally, and I described my soul really shutting my energy off to get my attention. And this is how the body works, because your soul is using your physiology to talk to you through your emotions and your feelings, but also the way your body physically feels. I just wanted to make that point, because I don't think people realize that if you feel exhausted while you're doing something, you probably shouldn't be doing what you're doing for your health, well-being, or for the trajectory of your purpose. So I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that, or if that, resonates at all with you.
Oh, at the level that you maybe your body is telling you it's kind of like a time to slow down,
Mm,
either or not doing it, or maybe just to like slow down and take it easy because you
right.
just been moving forward, moving mountains, and body start talking to you because it
Yeah.
start feeling that exhaustion. Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. Mhm.
Yeah, so I think we don't realize how connected we are to our bodies, and how our body is just like the earth. The earth provides everything that we need to live as a human being, and our body provides everything we need to navigate this life. I call my intuition my onboard navigation, because it always tells me what I need to know. I don't ever have to concern myself with making a decision, or with what I'm going to do next week or next month, or what am I going to do for money in a year. I don't have to think about it, because I know if I stay in the energy or in the mindset or the heart set that my body will tell me what I need to know, then I will be inspired to take an action towards that goal when the time is right. But I don't have to think about it before then, which frees me to live my life solely connected to my heartfelt desires, and then any inspiration that comes through. And it frees me from the fear and the insecurity and the focus, unbalanced method of living our lives, which is to put all of our energy towards one thing that we may not even end up wanting, because the reason we wanted that one thing, it no longer exists. So it's a really interesting life lesson, and a very an extraordinarily effortless way to live, if you can transfer that energy into that pool, and select out of it what you need when you need it, instead of driving it all in at one, focused on one thing like a laser. It makes all the difference in the
It's
world.
funny. It's funny how most of us finding that out along the way as we go
Yeah.
into these
Yep.
circles and waves. And so our intention for our audience to give you the heads up so you could see clearly that very simple formula that if body tells you it's there is a reason, and that reason not always clear right away. And
Right.
what do you want to do is you want to pause. It's the first step. You just pause, and pause in a time when you allow yourself to create
Right.
silence like with the verbal speech, and silence just when you quiet your mind. And so you
Right.
close your eyes and you continue with this deep breath. So deep breath, it just helps you to activate the parasympathetic system and allows
Mm.
to slow down your thought process, because when the thoughts are rushing through, they kind of like overlap with each other, and also it's kind of like creating a traffic jam, and then
Right.
there's an accident and it's just becoming messier and messier. And so the moment that you start breathing, you allow for the traffic to finally go away, traffic of your thoughts. And then finally, at one of those moments, there's a clarity gonna come, clear, uh, like actions that need to be made, or
Right.
simply say idea. It's like, oh, I think this is what I need to do. And from that moment that you start making those changes, shifts, decisions towards towards the brighter future. Another way, some like a kind of like a technique that I'd like to share, you can also ask yourself in those moments of like, what would my best version of myself would
Mm.
do at this moment? The
Right.
best version of yourself, right, is somebody who is like happy, joyful, playful, like confident, you name it, right? Because it's your best version of yourself. And you can
Right.
tap yourself in to think of like, wow, if everything great in my life, like I would go this direction. And
Right.
so that's usually kind of like, it helped me a lot. Because those moments when things get tough and dense, and we go in a, like kind of like more lower vibrational, or like there's
Yeah.
just too much going on to make the right decision, so we want to find a way to shift the energy in some ways.
Right.
It could be with the breath. Sometimes it could be just with a jump and like, jumping and shaking your body, because
Yeah.
jumping actually helps to release all the tensions, because
Yeah.
in these moments of density with the thoughts, your whole body creating physical tension unconsciously. Your
Right.
shoulders quite often gonna go up,
Mm-hmm.
all of that being suppressed. And so that's why just like shaking your body helps to release all that. And then finally, you feel more centered, in balance. Another way is nature walk.
Yeah.
Just getting those ideas. Simply, it's just like walking for like half an hour. You get
Mm-hmm.
all the clarity you needed.
That's beautiful. And as you were talking about shaking off energy and doing something physical, and when you said that, what would your higher self do, or the best version of yourself? I mean, that really is the best way to say is, how do you choose yourself, which is what we started this topic as, is
Yes,
how do you choose yourself? Well, what would people say, what would Jesus do? That was a big thing for a long time. What would my best version of me do? And it's never ever 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 going to say, choose something that you're not heartfelt, that isn't
right.
heartfelt, because I think people don't realize what it feels like to have a heartfelt desire, because they're so conditioned to just keep going and to pile more commitment on, and more more that drains us and drags us down. And I think we get
Exactly.
so low in our lives, we don't even realize how low we are. But like you said, when you start to shake that energy out, dislodge those blockages, and really breathe deeply and find your center, pause, those are the moments where your inspiration can get through, and where you get the ideas that are given to you from actually your higher self, the highest version of yourself who is always with you. You get those inspired ideas, and that breaks you out of that, the clay, or the mold that you put yourself into by ignoring, or not being able to have that connection with your intuition. So I think the breath is the most extraordinary tool. And I don't know, we're running about time to close. So I don't know if maybe you want to do a quick couple of breaths. I don't think
Yeah,
we got to do it after
will
the
do.
last one, but
Yeah,
maybe we can close it off, unless there's something else you want to add, Igor.
yeah. Just very quickly want to add, because when you choose yourself, you're making decisions that uh, when you follow your joy and happiness, that
Right,
you move in that directions. That means that, oh yeah, I choose myself, that feels good. And that's
right,
what that the direction that you take in those moments. When it's other way around, that means that you're not choosing yourself. And
right.
so with all of that, let's have this moment for ourselves all together, to
Sounds
thank.
great.
Yes, to have the gratitude for this episode, for the moment, and just allow ourselves to have this moment. Even for simple 3 breaths, we could see
Right.
and feel how that shifts our energy.
Mhm.
Everybody take a deep breath into the belly. Exhale all the way. The second deep breath in, which is deeper than the previous one. Exhale all the way. And one more deep breath, the deepest inhale of the day. And now hold your breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Thank you, Sophia, for sharing your insights. It's always a pleasure to have this um, awesome conversation and share things about our life that bring some clarity and resonance to our audiences.
I appreciate that too very much, Igor. These times are special, and very much look forward to them. So I'm excited about this and ready for whatever might come up next. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Aloha.
Aloha.